All right.
And it's like,
Welcome. All right, we're gonna, there it goes. We're gonna reconvene and call to order at 6:03. There were no actions taken in closed session. Attendance roll call. Trustee Elkerson? Here. Trustee Lopez? Here. Trustee Reed? Here. Trustee Galindo? Here. And Trustee Brett? Okay. And President Maxwell is here. If you would all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Hold your heart. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, item 3.5, adopt the agenda. Any changes to the agenda? No? Okay, looking for a motion? Indira, second? Julie, will you just jump on this? All in favor? Aye. 3.6, district mission statement. We are a collaborative, culturally rich educational community where a rigorous and innovative curriculum prepares our students to be successful contributors to our global society. Moving on, item 4, organizational meeting. 4.1, election of board officers administer the oath. Since Indira and I ran unopposed, but we have to be sworn in. So, Julie.
So I state your name, do solemnly swear.
Say your name.
I,
Jeff Master,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith
that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without purpose or reservation
or purpose
or
of
purpose
evasion,
or evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
that I will faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
All right. Okay, 4.2, consider nominations and appoint the governing board president for 2019. And we're looking for some motions.
Move that Julie Alderson president.
We need a second? Second, okay. All in favor? Aye. All right.
Am I supposed to say that next?
No, you're there.
Well, I accept.
And then we're going to go on to 4.3, nominations for the governing board clerk for 2019. Motion?
So I move that
Yes, please.
we appointed to secretary.
Mark seconds. All in favor? Aye. Newly appointed officers to take their seats. That's it.
looking at establishing dates and times of our board meetings. Thank you. 4.5 is establishing dates and times of our board meetings. This is for next year.
Correct, and the dates that you have in your board packet are the dates that we suggested at the last board meeting. Are there any changes or suggestions?
Yes. I'm going to take Jeff. So those are the dates for next year. And 5.1, we're looking at recognitions. So the Board of Education recognizes students, employees, or members of the community who have received recognition for academic or athletic achievement, or who have made significant contributions of any kind to the district. The following individuals will be recognized. So I'm going to read this, but then I'm going to say something also. Calistoga High School volleyball team coach Tian Butcher and assistant coach Dulce de Jesus and assistant coach Bud Bocchini for their triumphant athleticism during this fall season, in which they became the first female sports team from Calistoga High School to not only win their division, but then qualify for the Northern California Championships. In addition to their commitment to volleyball, all 9 players are scholar athletes, meaning their grade point average are all above 3.5. Congratulations to the amazing group of young ladies and coaches. Okay, I don't want to say a lot because I'll sit up here and talk about you guys forever, but these girls are amazing. Oh, remember, sorry. I've been watching these girls play volleyball officially since 7th grade, and they are tough players, amazing sportsmanship. I'm always proud to go with them anytime we go to a game because I know they're going to be just representing us with the highest standards. So congratulations, you guys. I can't wait to see what you do next year. And I'm just going to call you off one by one and give you a little something. Okay. And if you want to have a picture taken, Jeanette's going to be the official picture taker. So Jasmine Lopez. Let's see. Jimena Herrero. Andrea Villaseñor. Someone who's almost like my second daughter, Angelia. And Miss Katie Saunders. And Heisel Herrera. And this girl, Lila Elkisham. And Miss Vanessa Cato. special thank you to the 3 coaches who are so dedicated despite all the other things they have going on in their lives to not only this team, but also the softball team, which will be coming up soon. So can Tian Butcher, Dulce, is Dulce here? Okay. And Bud Bokini, come on up. I thought we'd get the whole coaching team together.
And then I want to pick up the
What is done by themselves? Yeah, done by themselves.
Perfect. And then can we get everybody?
Yeah. Oh, you guys are
I just wanted to say that these girls played through bruises and bumps and sprains and broken bones to do this year. I'm so impressed with these ladies. It's amazing.
Awesome. Thank you, girls.
Thank you.
Congratulations, girls.
Okay, so we'll go on to item 6.1, which is public business from the board, non-agenda items. Is there a white card? But first I have to read. Okay. This portion of the agenda allows an individual the opportunity to address the board on any item regarding board business that's not on the agenda. Without taking action or entering into a dialogue with the public, board members may briefly respond to statements made or ask clarifying questions about the topics posed by the public. Your matter may be referred to administration. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. And we have Miss Michelle Hickman.
Hello. I'm just here to let you know some of the events happening this week at the elementary school. The PTA is having a family night this Friday at 6 p.m. and you're welcome to attend. And also, the Calistoga Elementary School is having their music concerts this week. Tuesday is kindergarten through 3rd and choir. And Thursday is 4th through 6th grade band and also choir again. And both nights the performances are at 6:30. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Okay, so 7.1, we're going to take a look at the California School Dashboard. Michael, our Director of Educational Services, is going to review the newly released dashboard data.
Good evening. So we'll look at the dashboard data tonight. The California dashboard is a relatively new phenomenon. And so we're going to start tonight with a little bit of history, what preceded the dashboard, and what makes the dashboard unique from its predecessors. Prior to 2000, there was no real accountability system based on student achievement. And we've given students standardized tests for a long time. We reported those to the families, the schools utilized them, but they weren't utilized by the state for accountability. And that changed really in the year 2000, 2002, with API and AYP, which were the state and federal systems that would do that. And how those functioned was a single score was given to each school based exclusively on math and English standardized tests. So like back in 2013, I think the junior senior high school was at this number 7.1. And that number could be used to compare us to other schools or to compare us from year to year. API and AYP also had annual growth targets or expectations for annual growth. And then they broke scores out not just by school, but by subgroup within the school. So that was a system that we lived under for a long time. And then in 2012, the state said we were coming up with a new system. And then there was this time period where we really didn't have anything when we were waiting for the dashboard. And then last year is the first true year of the California School Dashboard. And what makes it unique is that instead of using just English and math scores, we now have 7 indicators. So there's 5 additional indicators. That's the biggest change. And I think that's a good thing. The state's on the right track when we say schools and school districts are more than just math and English scores. There's a lot more work happening that we need to take into consideration when we judge a school's progress. We continue to look at student subgroups, and we continue to measure annual growth. On this slide, we're not going to go through all 10 state priorities, but I think it is worth noting that there are these 3 main categories that the state's looking at. We're looking at conditions of learning, engagement of students and their families, and then pupil outcomes or pupil achievement. In the middle there, we have the things that are reported out by the dashboard. We're going to go into depth on those tonight. And then we also know on the far right that there are these local indicators that schools self-evaluate and self-report. So on the bottom of this slide, we have those 7 priorities, or 7 indicators that we're measuring. We're measuring chronic absenteeism, suspension rate, English learner progress, graduation rate, college and career readiness, as well as English language arts and math scores. For each of these indicators, the state gives a color assignment to how well you're doing. And last year, you might remember, there were these little like pie chart looking things. So this year, the state's replaced it with the speedometer, which I think is easier to read. Blue is your highest performing level, down to red, which is your lowest. The state uses this chart, they call it the 5x5 chart, to assign a color. And this is worth explaining. On the far left of this chart, you have the level of performance. So if we say this is the English language arts test, the state might say you have a high number of students achieving at or above standard. But then the state will also then look left to right horizontally, how much change did you make from last year? And if there was little change, in this example, you might be in the green area. If your scores declined, you might be in the yellow or orange. Or if you really increased your scores, you might be in the blue. So this is how we get to what the state's referring to as status or performance, and then change or growth from year to year. It's worth noting that the state is not only assigning a rating or a color to each of the 7 indicators, but then also doing so for each of the subgroups. Subgroup is 30 students or more would constitute a significant subgroup. So we have English learners, foster youth, homeless, socioeconomically disadvantaged, students with disability, and then any race where it constitutes 30 or more students. So this is our dashboard for the district. And we'll go through this piece by piece. We're in the yellow or average range in chronic absenteeism. In the green for suspension rate. For English learner progress, which is what we reviewed last month's board meeting, this is the first year of that test, the LPAC, and because there's not a second year, they can't give us a measurement of growth. So there is, within the system, we'll look at some reporting, but just not in that same way of the color wheel here. Our graduation rates are in the blue range, college and career is in the blue range, English language arts in the yellow range, and then mathematics in the orange range. So at first glance on our dashboard, it's pretty easy to identify where our strengths are. Our strengths are in the area of suspension rate, graduation rate, college and career readiness, and then our obvious area for growth is mathematics. We've talked a little about how these scores are then broken out by subgroup. And so this chart kind of lists all of that subgroup data. And I think the first thing that stands out to you is just how much data there is. That's a lot of color wheels, right? If we look at the edges of our performance, if we go over to the blue side and you say, where are our real strengths? Our strengths are in graduation rate, especially for Hispanics and socioeconomically disadvantaged students. Suspension rates for English learners and white students, and English language arts performance for white students. Our areas for growth in the red, especially, you see the homeless category showing up in 2 spots there, chronic absenteeism and suspension. Students with disabilities is showing up under English language arts and math performance. So these are concerns that deserve our planning and our resources.
Can I just ask you a question?
You bet.
Does that mean we have 30 people in the homeless category?
It's a great question. So homeless is the one exception to the 30 rule. It's a great question. The number is 15. And we this year have reached that threshold. It appears at 15.
And just to be clear, that
Yes.
doesn't mean that they're living in the car. That can mean they don't have a residence that they call their own main residence.
Yep, and typically this is self-reported. This could be someone who's sharing a home with someone else and does not consider that home their permanent residence. Those are great, great questions.
That's a very good question.
Okay, I'd like to give you just a quick tour of the dashboard to show you how the site functions and some of the deeper layers of information that you can get as you dive into it. Okay, so the first thing you'll notice when you go and you just type in California dashboard into a search engine, the first thing you notice is just, this is such an improvement from last year. If you went to this site last year, what you saw was a very institutional looking CDE government page. It just wasn't user friendly to the public. This is great, right? It looks like a modern day search engine. It's got pictures of children. It's very approachable. So this is an improvement that you kind of see throughout. The state's done a really great job of making this user-friendly and accessible. So if you type in the school district's name, which is, you can type in our name, but you can also type in the neighboring schools, make comparisons on your own. And if you go to the district view, which is what we're looking at tonight, so this is what we just looked at. It's a screenshot of that. You also see some other elements on here, which are the local indicators that we are reporting out on. But if you kind of keep going down this site, they've made it really easy to compare your performance to the statewide performance. A few presentations ago, we kind of drew a red line on the slide to give some context to it, how we compare to others. The state's just made it really easy to do that. You don't need to crunch numbers. You can just click on a button, and you can see that, for example, English language arts, we're in the yellow range, the state's in the orange range. So we're doing a little better than the state. That 5x5 chart that we looked at, they give you that information here. This is your achievement level, and then your growth, status and change. We'll go through this a little bit. In mathematics, we're in the orange. Where the state is at. For English learner progress, we don't get the color wheel. I don't know how much information comparison gives you on that one. College and career readiness, one of our strengths, we're far superior to where the state is at. Chronic absenteeism, we're slightly, if you look at that percentage score right down here, we're slightly slightly above where the state's at. I think we've had some discussions about did the fires impact us in a different way than it did other districts last year? We know we had families that left the area during the fires, and it took them a while to get back. They chose to stay away for a little time, so that's some of our consideration. Graduation rates, far ahead of the state average. And then lastly, on suspension rates, we're above the state average. We are at or above the state rating in every category. And then lastly here, we talked about the subgroups. Down here at the bottom, they give you what's called the equity report. And this is what subgroups are performing what levels. And if you just click on it, you can dive right into, they'll show you which subgroups landed in which level. So for us, suspension rates, we have English learner and white students in that blue range, Hispanic and socioeconomic Spanish students in the green range, students with disabilities in yellow, and then students in red. So, I think, I'd say I want to be reluctant to give kudos to the state on their technology piece here, but it's really great. It's really accessible. It doesn't take all the data crunching. They've made it accessible to the public. So I think the state's heading in the right direction. As far as our data, I think it does a good job of us of seeing where our strengths and weaknesses are. So that's what I have for you tonight. Do you have questions for me on anything I presented? I think we can anticipate that the dashboard will continue to get more robust. There are pieces of data that will continue to get added in the next several years. I think it's just so much more valuable than just looking at our image and master. We're getting some real data that's valuable to the public, valuable to us when it comes to evaluating our program and determining what changes we can make to help kids be successful.
Thank you. Okay, so now on to 7.2, establishing a date for a board study session to discuss the proposed Tulsa Wildcats Athletic Boosters project.
I had shared with you at our last meeting that I was approached by the Athletic Boosters officers, and they would like to propose a project in which they would raise all the funds for a complete renovation of our junior, senior high school fields, which would also include the track. It was also my recommendation that we hold a special study session so that the boosters could come in and present the detailed plan, as well as give us an opportunity to invite the community so they could also see it. I originally thought that January or February would be a good time to do that. However, I'm recommending tonight a new director of business, and so that position would be key in that plan as well. And since her start date hopefully would be January 7th, I think that we would need to at least give that person a month to settle into their new position. And then February is probably the busiest time in regard to the LCAP. That's the month that we survey all of our families, we hold our meetings to get input from our community and parents. And so my recommendation is that we hold that board workshop maybe towards the latter part of March. So my suggestion is March 25th, if you have that available. If not, I'm open to another date. It's a Monday night. I think it's good to keep it consistent just because that's what the community expects us to be.
In the evening.
It would be in the evening.
Okay.
Yeah, we want to make sure it's accessible to everyone. So 6 o'clock on the 25th. Thank you.
Okay, 8.1, principal's report. Counselor Elementary School, we can do that.
She's provided a written report.
Anybody have any questions on that? All right, then 8.2, junior senior high school.
Well, thank you. I won't go over my board report in too much detail, but I'd like to encourage you to come to, under LCAP Goal 3, any of these parent nights that we'll be offering. The first one, Bolton one, is sponsored by the Valley Partnership for Youth, and that's on the 23rd. And then we have the Rising 7th Grade Parent Night on the 24th. That's something new. One of the parts of our WASP process was the meeting of all parents in course selection. And so we want to offer our evening for families to come, and they can learn about the courses we offer, get a tour of the campus, and hear from all our teachers. So all our junior high teachers will be there that night. So we think it'll be a nice night. And then we're going to have a literacy night, information night, and that'll be, as you read there, involve our English language arts teachers and how we're going to be addressing our CAS scores and showing improvement. And then we have our community open house. I think you've all been there before. It's a big thing in the gymnasium. And then our math information night. Then a couple of things I want to point out is if you went to the Calistoga Christmas Fair, or if you're able to see that, our culinary kids were involved there, and they were quite productive and quite profitable. They netted almost $1,500 for one day, which is fantastic. Some standouts were Carla Arriaga Navarro, and this is from Mr. Burke, was responsible for sales and expediting orders. Carla was struggling to find her leadership voice. She now has a clear, developed leadership voice and demonstrates a strong attention to detail. Luis Sendejas was responsible for marketing sales and work back of the house. Luis is a talented and hardworking student that demonstrated incredible professionalism. He wants to work in viticulture, and I suggest that he start interning in the local wineries at his earliest opportunity. They would be fortunate to have him. And then Ebony Castillo, she joined us after working with the S Club to prep beverages and food sales. Ebony was a much needed relief for us in the later afternoon. The S Club kids were also working that day too. And then Mr. Burke has invited you all to his final exam. I know some of you have participated before. Mark your calendars for December 14th at 12 p.m. here. It'll be a little bit different. It'll be, what do you call it, a paper plate culinary arts event or exam. So you can stop by anytime between 10 a.m. and 12:20. I'm sorry, 10 a.m. and 12:20. And then I want to give a shout out to some really hard-working staff members who helped with who helped and organize the Gene Duffy tournament, which went really, really well. Eric Heights and Luis Owens are athletic directors. They were here late every single night and all day on Saturday. Did a fantastic job. All the teams that came from all over were just really thankful for how well organized everything was. And then Mr. Fartelt, our ASB teacher, and our ASB students. Mr. Hart was there every day and night. One of the teams didn't finish at 9:30. They didn't get a chance to eat, and he stuck around and made hamburgers for them, which was really great. And our ASB students were circling through and worked the snack bar every single night. And so they're raising money, of course, for the prom and the senior trip. And I just want to say thank you to them publicly.
I'm just curious, the culinary funds that they raised goes back into the culinary program?
I believe so, yes.
Great, thank you. So we don't have a student rep, so we'll pass by 8.3. 8.4, Director of Ed Services and Human Resources Report. Michael again has the floor.
Okay, we have some updates from Ed Services tonight and some of the work that's been happening. On our CTE, or CTIC grant, we anticipate joining the Napa County Consortium for our next grant, which will apply to the next 3 years of CTE or CTIC funding. After having met with the CTIC team and the NCOE CTIC coordinator, Gil Miller, we're excited to partner with NCOE. They will take some of the administrative duties off of us when it comes to the grant. Given our scale, I think we're wise to take advantage of any opportunity we can find to partner and lighten the load on our team is a good thing. Being part of the consortium also brings about the potential to see an increased amount of funding during the next grant cycle. So very excited about the news related to CTIC. Strategic math update. We've arranged a visit to go see St. Helena's strategic math program in January. We'll be visiting the high school and junior high school, observing classrooms, meeting with their administrative team and teachers. Strategic math is a new and important endeavor for us. St. Helena's had a program that's similar in place for a while, and we're looking forward to learning from St. Helena what's worked, what hasn't worked for them. We're still in the early stages of refining our program and determining what needs to happen so we can be effective in supporting our struggling students. So we're excited about the visit to St. Helena, and I'm excited that they're open to partner with us. An update on English learner reclassification. We're currently redoing our English learner reclassification criterion with the LPAC, which is a new test. We need to reset our cut lines as to where we're going to judge students as ready for reclassification. And thank you to Nicole Lamar, Monica Baldenegro, and Carolyn Carregui for their input. We've had good meetings. Their input has been really valuable in helping us make determinations on where our cut lines need to be. Also, thank you to our neighboring districts for sharing with us how they approached this challenge. So we are reclassifying students starting now through January in anticipation of who we will test on the summit of LPAC in February. And then lastly, on preschool articulation, I was recently invited to participate in a preschool articulation meeting, which happens between our kindergarten teachers and the local preschools. I guess it's been happening for years. It was really impressive to see how our teachers are collaborating with our community partners in the preschool. And the conversations were really on target as to what our kindergarten teachers need and TK teachers need from the preschool. So there was discussion around, last year there had been discussion around the need for perseverance, for more independence on behalf of students, and some specific skills like pressure on the pencil, being able to write the first name, detailed conversations that resulted in a lot of growth this year. So this meeting recently was about what do we need to focus on for next year. So it was really great to be involved in that and just to report out that I saw a high level of collaboration and I know it will benefit our kids greatly as they come into TK and kindergarten.
Just one question, going back to the reclassification. We set our own thresholds, the state doesn't set the threshold?
Great question.
I just think that's
Yeah.
interesting.
So the state used to, under the CEL test, they gave us the criterion. And then as we were kind of transitioning to LPAC, there was no marker. Not really. The state said, do what you need to do. Make your own determinations if you need to use alternative measures. And so everybody's been kind of figuring, how do we do this? And so we reached out to a lot of neighboring schools and said, how are you handling it? We reached out to the county head to try to have some consistency. We set this marker for reclassification right now, based on last year's summative test. We are hearing that the state will be providing that clear cut line in January for this year's test. But we still needed something to go on for this year. So we had the meetings, we feel good about the decisions we made, but I think we're heading back to a place where we want to be, right? We want to have some statewide consistency.
You would think that fluency is fluency, if not subjective.
Yeah, I will prepare you for, part of the discussion around this has been, LPAC has been new and they're still calibrating. So for example, we set our cut line very high this year because scores are very high. Next year we're hearing they're going to adjust it quite a bit. The cut line may go down because scores are going to go down. So we're still in that very early phase of LPAC and calibration.
What score are you referencing?
These are the LPAC scores. So this is the test that all of our English learners take to prove their progress in learning the English language. And we make a determination based on that score and some other factors when they're ready to be reclassified as English-only students. While they're English learners, they get a certain level of support.
Yeah. We have no student group performing outside of Orange necessarily, so I hope that we take the time to calibrate that.
Yeah, and as I said, I'm thankful for our neighbors for providing us with their information to help was calibrated the right way. And I really am thankful for Nicole Lamar, Monica Moldenegger, Carolyn Gray. They bring a lot of expertise. We had a valuable dialogue that was, and I think we got it in the right spot. I think I can share with you, I think we put it in a pretty high place. We'll see what that brings. It's a determination of how long to keep kids in support. They need support before they're released out of that program. But knowing that, they're also getting credit for some of their lectures, so that's that balance. But I feel very good about the decision making and the process.
Thank you. Superintendent's report, sorry.
I want to thank all of you for taking time out of your personal and your professional lives to attend CSBA last week. Appreciate that you learned more about your role as a board member and also your support of student learning. So thank you. Under LCAP goal number 2, a safe, healthy, and positive school environment, the Napa County Office of Emergency Services is working with all of the Napa County first responders to conduct active shooter drills on the school campuses. So that is still scheduled for January 4th. I've been assured that there will be lots of notification to the community so that nobody is panicking. There's going to be held both at American Canyon High and then at our senior high school. So I will give you more information as I get it. Under LCAP goal number 3, increasing parent engagement and increasing communication, I want to compliment both Craig and Nicole for the increase of parent involvement efforts that they have made this year. I think they've done a great job, so thank you. And then under other, I'm very pleased that I'm going to be recommending a candidate for our director of business position tonight. It's been many months that we have not had somebody full-time in that role. I'm looking forward to having some consistent services in our office. And I also want to publicly thank 2 people. One of them is here tonight. That's Adrian Vargas, who's going to give you a presentation. He has been most recently serving as our interim here, normally 1 day a week, and then working remotely as well to provide us support. And the second person is Steve Jorgensen, who also has spent a lot of time in our district assisting us. So it's been a pleasure having both of them work in our district. I also want to commend the Napa County Office of Education. They have also lent us extra support as we needed it. So I'm not sure what we would have done without those 3 different people. So thank you.
And to you all for absorbing all the extra duties.
And my office staff who continue to absorb extra duties.
Okay, no questions? Item 9.1, the consent agenda. So actions proposed for the consent agenda are deemed routine in nature and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless any member of the board or audience or staff requests specific items to be removed from the consent agenda for separate action. So nobody wanted to remove anything. And Indira moved and Mark seconded. Perfect. Thank you for bearing with me. Oh, you're right, roll call vote. Trustee Trustee Maxfield, you're no longer president. Trustee Lopez. Trustee Reed.
Aye.
Trustee Belinda.
Aye.
No student representative, and President Elkison. All right. Okay, so now we're moving on to 10.1. So Protocol for action items includes a staff presentation, questions from the board, public input, deliberation by the board, and voting by the board. During public input, there will be 3-minute time limit per person. So, 10.2, first interim financial report. Adrian?
Well, thank you for having me here tonight. Thank you, Erin. It's been a pleasure working with Calistoga Unified. Tonight I will be presenting the first interim budget. We'll go through the revenue and expenditure assumptions for 18-19. I'll go through the multi-year assumptions, and then we'll just summarize basically what happens at first interim, and just things to think about as you move forward through the rest of the fiscal year. So with that said, the first slide basically goes through the projected revenues, and I'll start out with LCFF/revenue limit sources. For Calistoga, that's primarily or all of property taxes. From the adopted budget, to first interim, we are projecting $275,000 less than the adopted budget. And I have the decreases there in percentages. So basically, it's about a 6.5% decrease from the adopted budget, with the property taxes coming from Sonoma County, and at about 1.4% less from Napa County. Those are the totals for projected or for first interim. My understanding in working with the Napa County Office of Ed, historically what we call the P2 tax report usually comes in higher, but it's been this history of the county that we budget what we get at the P1. So this is what we have at the P1 tax rate. For EPA funding, there's no changes. Same with the hold harmless. And then our SELPA distribution for property taxes for our special ed programs, that did decrease by 7.3% from the adopted budget. So we saw a little bit of an increase in our contribution to special ed programs. Moving towards federal revenues, I think this is probably my most fun I had. I was trying to figure out the carryover for Title I and Title II, because I like numbers, and so I got to work with a lot of numbers. With that all being said, the allocation for 18-19 for Title I is $129,756. We had a carryover of $148,000 that we added to the budget since the adopted budget. So that would give you a total allocation of a little over $278,000. For Title II, the allocation for 18-19 is a little under $18,000. When you add in the carryover of $50,000, the allocation for 18-19 comes a little over $68,000. And then the next two, this is just updating what the revenues came in from our SELPA. So for our special education federal IDEA money, we had a small decrease of $1,000. And then for our special ed federal mental health dollars, there's a minor decrease of $400. Now looking at our other state revenues, we have some one-time money for the property tax backfill. This was due to the fires last year. So the state gave the districts that were affected by the fires here locally property tax backfill to kind of make up for the lost revenue. That came in at $104,000. Our state lottery is projecting at $151 per ADA, and that's the calculation at $126,000. Our restricted lottery for instructional materials is at a little over $41,000. And then our special ed mental health saw a small increase of $667. I only mention the STIRS on behalf because that's something we're required to report on our financial statements. And that is being calculated right now at $485,700. Usually districts keep that constant until they close the books and until we get the actuals, and then we'll update it at that point. But for now, that's pretty much what it is. There's a little, so assuming one-time revenues, I should just say the one-time revenues are being calculated at $149,477. This is a combination of one-time funds that all districts received this year. That was the funding that went from $344 per ADA to $104 per ADA. That amount also includes the mandated block grant that Calistoga participates in year over year. So when we combine those two revenues, like I said, it's a little over $149,000, which is an increase of about $13,000 since the adopted budget. And then the other state revenue, the CTIC money, it's all prior year carryover. That got budgeted at $81,000. I believe the budget was set up with about $63,000. But for 18-19, that's the budget, and it is all carryover. And I think Michael talked about the new round of CTIC money that's coming out at the beginning of next year, so all districts will be applying for the new money. So moving on to projected expenditures, they include the step increases from 17-18, it includes retirements, but it also includes the new hires that were added after the 17-18 school year. And just kind of a note, as we're going through first interim, we do double check salaries just to make sure that everything is projected right, because when the budget is developed, you take it at the highest step, and some people come in at lower, or there just might be other things that get added, like stipends, or just things that we might have missed at the development cycle. But we go through that and just make sure that we got what we can project it all the way through June 30th of 2018. And here's a list of your big ticket items that you adopted. $120,000 for instructional technology, particularly iPads, and then $135,000 for the MGSS curriculum adoption. This slide basically just kind of highlights the employee benefits. That's roughly, I believe, a little over 19%. There's a slide further in the presentation that gives the total percentage. So not only do we pay a salary, but we also pay what I call the statutory benefits. Depending if you are a classified employee or a certificated employee, that could range anywhere from 25% to 30%. This slide basically highlights the contributions. So we are contributing money from our general fund, which is unrestricted funds, to cover the expenditures for these particular programs. For the special ed programs, it's roughly $1.6 million. For our routine restricted maintenance account, we're contributing $582,000. We're required to at least contribute 3%. I believe we're right around there or a little bit above that. But we do meet the requirement. And then we are contributing roughly $79,000 for the outdoor education program for the elementary school. So with that all said and done, that's roughly $2.3 million in contributions. And this just kind of highlights the special ed program. We're budgeting $2.4 million. Our revenues are roughly $0.7 million, and then our contribution is $1.7 million. And I think the reason why we highlight that is just, these are just examples of costs that a district might incur. Might see 35 to 50,000 for a student annually if they are going to a non-public school. And then you have the preschool potential costs, as well as if a student is placed in a residential non-public school. I gotta admit, I really like this slide. I'm going to steal it from the other districts that I work with. Because I would tell you, as one of my things to consider, I think this is a concern that all districts have right now, is just the rising special ed expenditures, because we're not getting the funding to cover that, so it's all coming out of your unrestricted general fund. So that I really do like this slide. Transfers out, we're contributing funds to the cafeteria fund at about 300,000, and then for our capital outlay fund at roughly 200,000. That has not changed since the adopted budget. Now moving on to our multi-year projections. On the revenue side, I'm assuming 4.24% year over year for property taxes. So that assumption has not changed since the adopted budget. I'm removing the one-time state revenues that are related to the mandated costs, and then the property tax backfill. I'm assuming flat funding for Title I and Title II, so the numbers that you saw for the carryover, those were backed out of the multi-year plan, and then the expenditures associated with those dollar amounts were also backed out. And then I'm assuming flat funding for special education. And then I'm removing all the one-time local revenues and carryover. So primarily on the restricted side, what you would see is the continuation of the Napa Learns grant. So on the expenditure side for the multi-year, I'm assuming no COLA or a negotiated increase. That is not built into the multi-year. I'm assuming about a 1.25% step and column increase. The STRS increases of 1.85 in 1920, a little under 1% in 2021, and then an increase of 12,000 and 15,000 for the Napa Learns grant, because it decreases year over year, and so that's the portion the district has to get back up on the unrestricted side of the budget. For classified salaries, again, not assuming any negotiated increases, 1.45% for step and column. Their PERS increases are 2.74 in 1920 and 2.7 in 2021. And as I mentioned earlier, I removed expenditures related to one-time revenues. And then this slide just kind of highlights the percentages for each certificated and classified employee. As I said, we can range anywhere, actually here it's 22% all the way up to 32%. Moving forward for cash flow, we're not projecting any shortages in cash flow for 18-19. A couple of things to think about is that 1 month of payroll is approximately a little over $1 million. And so if you have to go borrow cash, these are kind of the costs that are associated with doing a short-term borrowing. Moving on to reserves, this has not changed. We're designating 275,000, 100,000 for STRS and PERS increases that rolled over from 17-18, and then an additional 100,000 for the 18-19 fiscal year, and then we're reserving 75,000 for future technology upgrades and replacements. That is worth roughly about 1.6% of your fund balance. The only reason why I say that is because this number here represents the amount left over after you designate the 275,000. So after the designations, your reserve for economic uncertainty is a little under 17% in 1819, 18.5% in 1920, and a little over 21% in 21-22. And this kind of gives you, or this graph here, or table, kind of gives you a tax history of how property taxes have come into Calistoga since 1314. I think the thing to pay attention to is the change in percentage. So you go from 4.5% from 1213, then you go from 4.5 to 7% in 1415. You go up less than 1% in 1516, and then you drop in 1617. And then you go back up in 1718. I only highlight this is just to show you kind of the fluctuations of your property taxes. And I understand the board policy of maintaining 20%, because you need to have a fund balance in order to kind of, you don't want to dip to 4.5% or even dip from 7.67 to 5.58%. I mean, that's a 2% drop. And if you didn't have reserves built in, like some districts that aren't basic aid, their reserves are dropping and they're cutting programs. And I know that no school district has that programs. So like I said, things to consider are the property tax fluctuations, special education expenditures. Negotiations haven't been settled, so there are no increases built into your multi-year. And then you have facilities needs that come up. One example was this morning, I was just talking to Chris about filters. The filters had to be replaced because of the recent fires up in Duke County. That's not something that was budgeted, and we're looking at a bill like $3,500, and so more than likely that's going to have to come from the fund balance. But those are just the things that come up that you don't expect when you're developing your budget. One thing that I forgot to list on here, which is always a big thing, is the SLURS and PERS increases. Can't forget about those because we saw that how fast those are going. And then I left the quote, excesses of today will be the cuts of tomorrow, so just keep that in mind. So with that, you take any questions?
I just have to say how fun it is to have, we've had 3 different people present the budget in 3 very educational ways. So thank you for that, yeah. Everybody does it a little bit different, I always learn something. So if nobody has any questions, we're looking for an action to approve the interim budget. Perfect. All in favor? Opposed? Thanks, Adrian. So 10.3, the CSBA Delegate Assembly nominations. So this is me? Okay. So we're requesting to nominate 1 trustee to represent our region, which is Region 3, Sub-Region B, Napa County. And we are considering nominations. Currently, Miss Indira has been representing us for how long? 8 years. So we're looking for someone to motion to nominate Indira. Perfect. And second? Oh, you accept? Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for always representing us. So professional.
Part of the nominations committee for, president and vice president.
Oh, good.
So we're going to be working on that.
Oh, fantastic. Great.
So we did not say all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Right? Good. Yeah? Okay.
So 10.5, agreement with Office Team. That's Michael.
10.4.
Oh, I'm sorry. That MOU, Memorandum of Understanding with Howell Mountain District School District.
So this agreement would benefit one of our former students who just recently moved to the Howell Mountains School District. It would be of no cost to our district because they would reimburse us for the use of the van and our driver, and I believe it's in the best interest of the student. So I recommend your approval.
Oh, so Mark and I'll say Yadira, all in favor? Okay, now 10.5, agreement with Office Team. Michael.
Yeah, we have an agreement with Office Team to provide temporary office support. We know we have times when we have office staff who will go out on vacations or emergency leave, and we need to make sure that those critical positions have someone there staffed for them. Office Team is a reputable local company out of Santa Rosa. This contract will be in place for 1 calendar year from the date of being signed, and the funding would be our district general fund. In an effort to make sure that we stay effective in our operations when absences occur, I recommend that we approve this contract.
Great.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? Great, okay. 11.1, board meeting calendar. So we're just looking at our next 3 meetings, Monday, January 7th, Monday, February 4th, and Monday, March 4th. No problems with those. And then 11.2, upcoming events. So what's coming up is what Michelle highlighted in open comments that we have on Tuesday, the 11th, the elementary school K-3 concert, Thursday, the 13th, the elementary school 4 through 6, and then Monday, December 17th through Friday, January 4th is winter break. So 11.3, tentative future meeting agenda items. So we have coming up school accountability report cards, Prop 39 financial and performance, and a financial audit report. And then 11.4, reconvene a closed session, so we don't need to do that. And 11.6, oh, Mark, beat me to it. So Mark and second was, all in favor? It'll be smooth sailing.